The story opened with a brutal survival battle where lives would be wagered without mercy. It framed that battle as a ruthless war for the title of true wife, drenched in blood and betrayal. Then the scale narrowed, revealing a tiny world where winners and losers were decided all the same. But the narration challenged that rule at once, and asked if there might be a guaranteed way to win. From there, the focus snapped to the present, as the real story finally began. At Siren High, the curtain rose on a heroine race centered around a single man. April arrived, and Class 2. A buzzed with ordinary chatter as another school day began. A few boys called out to Izumi and eagerly tried to drag him into after-school karaoke plans. Izumi only blinked in confusion, silently wondering why they were all of a sudden inviting him. His friends quickly explained that Siren High girls would be there too, and Izumi realized this was just a mixer. Izumi flatly told them they were fools, warning that this mixer would only tighten the noose around their own necks, leaving them stunned. Striking a dramatic pose, Izumi declared that if he joined them, he would monopolize every girl there himself, then mocked the others for looking so pathetic. The boast crashed instantly, and under the group's silent stare, Izumi started sweating as the air turned painfully awkward. Flustered, Izumi begged them to at least fire back so he would not look like he had failed that badly. But one of them dryly said he absolutely had. Izumi shot back that they were the ones who invited him just to treat him like this, while the others admitted they should probably find someone better at conversation and warned that bringing him was starting to look embarrassing. As Izumi shrank into himself, he heard a girl notice the scene with curiosity, and inwardly grumbled that Satu and his ridiculous friends were making him look bad. The girl revealed herself as Amane Amasaki, cheerfully greeting Izumi, and the whole room's attention swung toward him at once. Izumi recognized Amane after all this time, and when she rushed over asking excitedly about his modeling work, he quietly tensed. As their classmates gathered around, Amane explained that she had gone to Los Angeles with her father to broaden her horizons, and the room stirred in awe when they heard her father was a designer. When someone worried about the first period quiz, Amane casually brushed it off and said she had brought enough souvenirs for everyone anyway. The moment stayed tense, and nothing about the core of it changed. The weight of it lingered, with no relief in sight. What passed between them left them both unsettled, and neither could shake it. The situation stayed unresolved, and the pressure only kept building. The atmosphere remained charged, especially because neither of them said a word. The scene froze in an uneasy stillness that refused to ease. That tension carried forward without breaking, and it only grew heavier. The moment dragged on, still tense, still unchanged at its core. What lingered between them left both of them unsettled, and painfully aware of it. The weight of that silence refused to lift, offering neither of them any relief. When the silence finally broke, Amane nervously leaned over the desk and started to say that he already knew the situation. Then, she all of a sudden slammed her head down in apology and begged Izumi not to pity her, leaving him stunned by how extreme her reaction was. Flushed with embarrassment and desperation, Amane pleaded for Izumi to teach her how to study. Izumi pushed back right away, saying it was far too late for that and telling her to stop pretending she was some model honor student, while others wondered how people kept falling for her act. Even so, the study sessions began, and as Izumi drilled her on the key points, he learned that work kept her so busy she barely had time to study, and had even come close to repeating a year after missing notes. Amane admitted she only agreed because people asked, and because Izumi praised her enough that she blurted out she would teach anyone who was struggling, trapping herself with her own words. As he guided her through the material, Izumi admitted that learning enough to teach other people was genuinely impressive, even if she had been faking the honor student image. Then it hit him. Amane might have been naturally smart all along, and she was still working hard to cram studying into the gaps between jobs. After a long day, Amane quietly said they should stop there for now as the school bell rang. As Izumi left, he told her she could get very good grades if she truly tried, and Amane threw his earlier accusation back at him by asking which of them was really pretending to be dumb just to avoid backing out. Izumi quietly admitted that life felt easier when nobody expected anything from him. Even so, he told Amane that simply watching her work so hard was already enough to inspire him, and his sincerity visibly shook her. Just as he tried to leave, Amane all of a sudden grabbed his sleeve and stopped him in place. Flustered and struggling to force the words out, she finally called out to him. Amane nervously begged Izumi not to tell anyone that she was the one who had gotten caught in this situation. Red-faced and emotional, she admitted that Izumi was the only person she ever let see this weak side of her. Izumi softly said he already knew, and that calm answer only deepened the weight of her confession. Caught off guard by how serious the moment had become, he awkwardly tried to bring it to an end. Before leaving, he noticed Amane had prepared a DVD labeled for him, and he could only react with weary disbelief at how far she had gone. Holding the disc close and sinking into embarrassed relief, Amane convinced herself that Izumi really must like her. Still blushing over the DVD, Amane told herself that if Izumi had gone that far for her, then their feelings had to be mutual, and they were practically on the path to being together. Even in the middle of that excitement, Amani worried that if she got carried away too soon, things could turn painfully awkward before they ever became a real couple. She quickly pulled herself together, told herself there was no need to rush, and proudly decided that only she truly understood Izumi's hidden charm. Fidgeting with excitement, Amane boldly declared herself candidate number 1 for the Izumi Sumi Bowl, and insisted she had no reason to panic without any visible competition. The narration then framed Amane Amasaki as the school idol who became clumsy and unguarded whenever she was alone with Izumi. It revealed that Amane had been carrying these feelings for 6 months and counting, just as the scene shifted to a school assembly. A dull speech dragged on in the gym, and the students slowly lost focus as bored, half-listening reactions spread through the room. Izumi all of a sudden perked up when the announcement revealed that the next speaker would be the student council president. The instant Hakuwa Shiraijiku stepped up and calmly asked everyone to settle down, the entire hall fell silent under her presence. Introducing herself as Hakuwa Shiraigiku, the student council president, she began by informing the students that the school sports festival would be held next month. As Hakuwa explained the sports festival, the boys whispered that even upperclassmen could let their guard down around school events, while another student noted that the usually untouchable ice princess had already been shaken once before. They went on praising Hakuwa Shiraigiku as the beautiful heiress of the famous Shiragiku confectionery family and a top scorer nationwide, while also warning that carelessness could still end in injury. Hakuwa calmly urged everyone to work together and make the sports festival unforgettable. She wrapped up her speech neatly, but Izumi stayed fixed on her with unusual focus as the assembly moved on. When Hakuwa caught his gaze, she answered him with a small smile, and Izumi went still in silent surprise. The announcement right away moved to the next speaker, the guidance counselor Goto-sensei, cutting that charged moment short. After school, the scene jumped to evening as Izumi returned to his apartment building beneath the night sky. He reached room 301, the Sumi residence, and opened the door. Stepping inside, Izumi quietly announced that he was home. Then the sight of unfamiliar shoes at the entrance made him freeze, and a voice welcomed him back by name, catching him completely off guard. The mystery snapped apart at once when Hakuwa Shiraichiku turned out to be inside, calmly welcoming Izumi home from work and asking if he wanted dinner while cooking in his kitchen. Izumi stared in shock and realized the unexpected visitor was the Ice Princess herself. Hakuwa explained that she lived next door in the same apartment complex and often came over to cook for him. Then she revealed that their parents had once decided they would be engaged, since both families ran major companies and the two of them were expected to inherit them. Izumi quietly added that the arrangement no longer stood because he was no longer an heir, making Hakuwa nothing more than his former fiancée now. Even so, Hakuwa waited beside a fully prepared dinner with a gentle look, as if being in his home was still the most natural thing in the world. Izumi remained uneasy as he reflected that things were only supposed to stay that way in the past. Then Hakuwa stepped forward and silently asked for his arms, making the atmosphere even harder to ignore. Before he could sort through his feelings, and the interaction becomes difficult to navigate. Caught off guard and blushing, Izumi stiffly greeted Hakuwa as senpai, showing just how badly her sudden closeness had shaken him. When Izumi shyly called her Hakuwa-ni-san, Hakuwa lit up in surprise and clearly treasured hearing it. Pleased by his reaction, Hakuwa gently patted his head and settled into caring for him while Izumi stood there too stunned to respond. Izumi reflected that they hid their former engagement by barely interacting at school. Yet when they were alone, Hakuwa still treated him exactly like she had in middle school and insisted he would always be like a little brother to her. Her calm smile and overpowering closeness left Izumi completely overwhelmed. Unable to endure the awkward closeness, Izumi hurriedly tried to put some distance between them and pull himself back together. He awkwardly suggested they eat before dinner got cold, while privately realizing that Hakuwa had almost no sense of personal boundaries when they were alone. While helping at the table, Izumi apologized for always causing Hakuwa trouble like this. Hakuwa brushed it off calmly, saying she was already making her own dinner anyway, so his concern changed nothing. Then she explained that older sisters naturally wanted to spoil their younger brothers, leaving Izumi with a strained, uncertain laugh. As the mood shifted, Hakuwa all of a sudden asked Izumi something more serious, and he turned to her at once with cautious attention. Hakuwa coyly steered the question back to her cooking and pressed Izumi to say what he should have said already. Flustered, Izumi hurriedly said the meal was truly delicious, and apologized for failing to say something that simple sooner. Hakuwa right away pushed further and asked exactly how delicious it was, catching Izumi off guard again. Cornered by her expectant stare, Izumi nervously blurted out that it might have been the best in the world. The answer hit Hakuwa like a direct emotional blow, and she froze in delight at how happy it made her feel. Overwhelmed with excitement, Hakuwa dashed off while declaring that from tomorrow onward she would make food for him every single day. Watching her go, Izumi panicked that this was far too much, then noticed how much she had already made today and realized she was getting carried away. The situation becomes awkward. In her mind, the moment marked her live-in wife plan moving forward, with her former fiancé status helping her steadily take over Izumi's daily life. She even revealed that she had used family influence to secure the room next to Izumi's, proving just how deliberately she had placed herself close to him. Hakuya reassures herself that no other girl could enter Izumi's life that easily, because she already holds the spare key. She holds on to the memory that Izumi was the only one who ever saw her, not as a powerful heiress, but simply as a girl. Even after Izumi lost his status, she remembers how they still understood each other, and that only made the distance hurt more. So deep down, she tells herself that even now she understands Izumi better than anyone else, or at least, that is what she wants to believe. Fired up all over again, Hakuya swears she will stay by Izumi's side until the very end, and one day stand beside him openly as the future heir. The story paints Hakuya Shiraigiku as an icy beauty on the surface, yet her devotion to Izumi runs far deeper than anyone expects. Then comes the reveal. Hakuya has carried these feelings for more than 5 years. Back at school, Izumi brings lunch again, and it becomes clear that Hakuya has been secretly making his bento by hand every single day. Though he feels guilty relying on her this much, Izumi cannot deny it anymore. For someone living alone, her help has become a lifeline. That quiet moment breaks apart when someone urgently warns Inori not to come any closer. The warning leads Izumi straight to Inori Domoto, clinging in fear while Haru Kasuga stands guard. And Satu can only panic as Izumi sees everything. Haru coldly explains that some unsettling upperclassmen tried to approach Inori, leaving her shaken and staying close to Haru for safety. Izumi instantly blames Satu for stirring up trouble again and kicks him away without hesitation, his irritation impossible to miss. Once the chaos settles a little, Izumi asks why Haru and Inori are even in a second-year classroom, already knowing how much attention the two famous first years attract. The narration frames Inori Domoto as a little angel, the kind of sweet presence that makes boys gather around her without fail. Haru Kasuga, by contrast, is introduced as a little devil who lashes out at anyone threatening Inori, and by fate, both girls ended up in Izumi's club as his juniors. Letting the drama die down, Inori nervously asks Izumi whether the club is meeting today, while Haru stays planted beside her with a guarded look. Izumi realizes that was the only reason they came, and awkwardly tells them they could have just messaged him directly. He casually confirms that club day is on and mentions that both of them are free today, and the girls agree at once. Just when Izumi starts to relax, Inori all of a sudden asks whether he read the book she recommended before, and he stiffens on the spot. Without warning, Haru steps in front of Inori and blocks Izumi, making it painfully clear she does not want him getting any closer. Haru bluntly tells Izumi to stop acting so familiar with Inori, and the hostility in her voice puts him on edge right away. Inori timidly tries to calm Haru and says this should already be settled, but Haru storms off before the tension can break. As she leaves, Haru throws him a glare and calls him a shameless creep, leaving Izumi frozen where he stands. Inori peeks in anxiously and asks what happened, unable to ignore how all of a sudden everything turned tense. Izumi hurriedly explains that he only meant to say he bought the book Inori recommended, but even he knows the timing could not have been worse. Then the bell rings outside the library prep room, and the scene grows awkward with no easy escape. Inside, Izumi, Inori, and Haru take their seats with books in hand, and the room sinks into strained silence. Izumi reflects that their literature club, or rather, their literature appreciation society, is a very small group. He dryly sums it up as 3 people quietly reading and chatting, though the earlier tension still lingers beneath the calm. Izumi recalls that after the older members graduated, Haru and Inori pushed him to keep the literature club going, and now that memory circles back to the uneasy trio in front of him. Looking around the room now, he notes that Inori is quietly absorbed in her book as usual, while Haru remains the one he cannot quite read. Haru catches him staring and sharply asks what his problem is, and Izumi flusters as he insists she is taking it way too far. Rather than ease up, Haru keeps playing on her handheld game without even pretending to read, making Izumi question where her real priorities are. Watching her like that, Izumi starts to suspect Haru joined the club mainly to protect Inori. Haru casually confirms that suspicion and bluntly says the real problem is Inori's little sister. That sudden remark leaves both Izumi and Inori staring at her in open confusion. Izumi frantically searches his thoughts in disbelief, desperately hoping he misunderstood what Haru was implying. At last, he protests that Inori is not the culprit and accuses Haru of completely misleading him. Haru coldly shrugs off his reaction and says she will not spoil the explanation, only dragging Izumi deeper into confusion. Still tense from Haru's teasing, Izumi warns her not to bait him with half-spoilers, because she is making him paranoid for nothing. Haru coolly reminds him that this club exists to support its younger members, not ignore them and waste club time just reading. Izumi realizes she is messing with him on purpose again, and his frustration starts building in silence. Then, with a sigh, Izumi all of a sudden drags over a chair, and Inori jolts as the mood shifts in an instant. He drops into the seat right in front of Haru, catching both girls off guard as he closes the distance without hesitation. Haru panics at the sudden move and blurts out that he is acting suspiciously, as if he has finally shown his true nature. Izumi calmly pushes back and says, Haru always treats him like the enemy, especially every time she warns him to stay away from Inori. Inori freezes in flustered confusion while Izumi bluntly suggests Haru may just be acting overprotective to draw attention to herself. Pressing the issue further, Izumi calls Haru out for not being honest, and her composure finally starts to crack. Haru's face goes rigid with shock, and all that comes out is a panicked, broken response. Izumi finally drops back into his seat with a tight sigh, trying to reset after pushing Haru too far. Still flustered, Haru snaps that if he keeps acting like that, someone is going to make him pay for it someday. Before Izumi can respond, a book flies straight at him, and Haru furiously tells him to fix his attitude if that hit finally knocks some sense into him. Haru storms out in blazing embarrassment, screaming that he is a hopeless creep, while Inori calls after her in alarm. Rubbing the spot where he was hit, Izumi bitterly realizes Haru had been acting strangely calm for a while, only to snap back even harder than before. As he looks down at the book, Izumi all of a sudden notices it is the exact one Inori had been trying to get him to read. That realization makes Inori freeze in total humiliation as the meaning behind Haru's outburst comes crashing down on her. Outside, Izumi finally pieces it together and says Haru blew up because he kept reading ahead by himself and completely missed the emotional point. Haru bluntly puts it into words by accusing Inori of wanting Izumi to pay special attention to her that badly. Inori turns red and stammers that it was supposed to be a fated reunion, exposing the shy hope she had tried so hard to hide. As Inori blushes over her talk of a fated reunion, nearby girls mock the idea and brush her off as an easy attention seeker. Inori shrinks in embarrassment. But then Izumi all of a sudden appears and casually asks where they are headed, jolting both girls at once. Inside her head, Haru grumbles that Izumi is a hassle as always, then sharply reminds Inori that even if she calls it fate, Izumi still does not remember her at all. Walking beside Inori, Haru stays close like a self-appointed guard, making it clear that she alone understands the hidden side behind Inori's gentle image. The story shifts into playful rivalry, framing a fast-moving contest over who might reach Izumi's heart first. One girl excitedly points Izumi out nearby, while another flusteredly denies she was planning anything serious with him. Another contender thinks that if today goes well, she might finally get the chance to greet Izumi properly. Inori awkwardly insists she does not see Izumi as a senior that way, then instantly falters when someone suggests she should just talk to him alone. One girl eagerly waits for her secret after-school time with Izumi and brightly greets him the moment he appears. Another imagines a blissful future with him and warmly offers Izumi a morning greeting of her own. One girl fights through her nerves, curses her own lack of honesty, and barely manages to force out a shaky good morning to Izumi. As Izumi stands by the lockers, another girl locks onto him, and all of a sudden the rivalry over him feels real. Nanao Nanase boldly steps forward in her imagination, deciding the fastest path to victory is to confess her feelings and ask Izumi out. The other girls are stunned by how far that fantasy goes, and their playful competition turns serious in an instant. Even Nanao gets swept up by the shock of her own thoughts, realizing just how intense this race for Izumi's attention has become. Then she convinces herself there is only one guaranteed way to win the heroine race. In Nanao's eyes, true victory means being able to clearly tell Izumi that she loves him, and even Izumi is caught off guard by that imagined resolve. The scene swells like a grand finale in her head, as if the battle over Izumi has already reached its dramatic final act. But the other girls instantly reject that ending, each of them bristling at the thought of giving Izumi up. Their resolve hardens into open rivalry as none of them will let him go, and Izumi is left sweating in the middle while the battle stays wide open. A summary begins by introducing the high school student Izumi Sumi. It recounts that he even taught the school idol how to study. It also reminds us that the beautiful student council president once cooked for him. On top of that, he somehow ended up getting very close with his female junior too. Then a mysterious girl all of a sudden appears, confesses her love to Izumi, and asks him out directly, pushing the rivalry into something even more extreme. Izumi is left stunned when he realizes this bold girl is someone from his past. The story jumps back about a week earlier, to when that girl was first seen walking alone through the school hallway. Nanao Nanase arrives carrying her things, already feeling crushed as she regrets not sending them straight home the moment she senses trouble ahead. As she looks around the unfamiliar school, Nanao admits it feels lonelier than she expected because she has no one there to rely on. Then, Nanao notices something strange and quietly asks what is wrong. Izumi notices Nanao looking uneasy and tells her she seems to be having a hard time. He then exaggerates her timid reaction in his head and teasingly compares her to a small frightened kitten, Caught off guard by his forwardness, Nanao nervously wonders if this is just how boys in the city act. Izumi quickly realizes he may have come off as threatening, while Nanao says nothing and watches him carefully. Flustered, Izumi apologizes and explains that he only spoke because she looked troubled, then awkwardly asks if he should have approached her differently. Nanao decides he is strange but not actually scary, and that judgment eases her tension a little. Izumi notices how heavy her things are and asks what is going on, adding that she should not be carrying all that by herself. Nanao explains that she came to handle her transfer paperwork and pick up her textbooks because her father was all of a sudden called into work and could not drive her. While taking a call, Izumi realizes she is a transfer student and confirms that she will be in class 2B, right next to his class. Nanao then greets Goto-san as Izumi reports that the transfer student is already here. Izumi explains that Nanao's father all of a sudden can't come for her, then takes the whole problem onto himself. Just like that. He tells Nanao her textbooks will be sent to her house and she is left wondering who he even called to make that happen. Izumi adds that Goto-sensei from Career Guidance will handle the rest and says he will leave her materials in the staff room for her. Nanao is stunned that the weight crushing her a moment ago vanished in an instant, and she starts seeing Izumi in a completely different light. Izumi points toward the school gate and asks if she even knows the way back. And that is when everything changes. As her eyes drift to his phone, Nanao all of a sudden spots a familiar old strap hanging from it. The sight hits her so hard that a reaction slips out before she can stop it, and Izumi turns around at once. Nanao stares at the strap in disbelief, her whole face shaken by what she just recognized. Izumi notices what caught her eye and admits it is a character charm from years ago, adding that he never thought anyone else would still know it. Nanao says she loved that character so much she even made one for herself, even though her friends used to tease her for it. She shyly admits that she still keeps her own charm, because she truly loved it that much. Izumi thanks her with visible relief and says hearing that honestly makes him happy. Nanao cannot understand why his gratitude hits her this hard, but his smile leaves her flustered and her heartbeat refuses to slow. As she stares at the matching charms, Nanao starts wondering if this overwhelming feeling might be what falling for someone really is. The story then moves into the next part of their school life in Class 2AA, and the pressure only keeps rising. After school, Izumi gets confessed to again, and collapses at his desk in disbelief over how things spiraled this far. Rumors tear through the class as everyone bombards him with questions, and he realizes the teasing still has not stopped. Once the classroom finally empties, Izumi sighs and tries to brush it off, insisting everyone is making too much of one confession. He turns to Amane for backup, but the look on her face stops him cold. Amane answers with obvious irritation, sarcastically saying a popular guy like him must be used to this by now, and the air around her turns sharp. She keeps pressing him with a jealous stare, dryly pointing out that he does not seem troubled in the slightest. Still bristling, Amane accuses him of acting like it means nothing when he clearly does not hate the attention. Izumi hurriedly explains that Nanao only confessed because he was the first person she met after helping with her transfer paperwork. Amane fires back that he must have charmed Nanao from that very first meeting and made her fall for him. That accusation leaves Izumi sweating because her jealousy is clearly deeper than he expected. He starts to realize Amane is genuinely upset, and that only makes the tension around him tighten. Amane insists she does not care who Izumi dates, then bitterly tells him to go be happy with his cute transfer student. Izumi stops her and carefully says that just because Nanao is cute does not mean he would instantly accept her confession. Amane jerks in shock at that answer, stunned by what it implies. Izumi awkwardly adds that dating should start with actually getting to know each other first, exposing just how old-fashioned he is about romance. Amane jolts at that answer and flusteredly blurts out that he is always saying reckless things, then all of a sudden comes out with something like this. Izumi gives up on explaining any further and suggests they just study, while Amane goes quiet as a new idea starts forming. Her mind races through Izumi helping Nanao confessing, and his claim that he is single until one thought slams into her. Is he trying to appeal to her? Acting on that suspicion, Amane all of a sudden slaps Izumi and declares she knew from the start he was exactly that kind of guy. Izumi is left completely stunned by the outburst and can only brush it off weakly. Before the mood can settle, Nanao appears behind Izumi, calls to him warmly, and shyly asks if she can join them since he is still here. Amane instantly cuts her off with a sharp warning, saying someone is already with Izumi and accusing Nanao of getting too familiar. Nanao right away retreats and apologizes, clearly rattled by the force in Amane's voice. Then, in a sudden turn, Nanao grabs Amane's hands in excitement after realizing the girl in front of her is the model, Amane-chan. Nanao lights up with admiration and excitedly reveals that Amane is famous even where she came from, flipping the mood in a second. She gushes that Amane looks even more charming than in photos, and praises how effortlessly polished she seems, leaving Amane completely caught off guard. Amane proudly accepts the praise and smugly agrees, instantly warming to being adored. Izumi watches the exchange in surprise, realizing Nanao is genuinely that nice, which makes her far harder to deal with than he expected. Nanao then notices the study materials, realizes Amane has been teaching Izumi, and right away praises her again for being smart too. Amane smugly accepts that praise as well, while Izumi can only stare at her in silence. Trying to shut this down before it gets worse, Izumi awkwardly says they can talk more tomorrow and starts moving to wrap things up. But before he can escape, Nanao nervously asks if she can join their study session, and the request visibly jolts Amane. Nanao explains that the classes here seem more advanced than at her old school and timidly asks if she would just be a burden. Izumi instantly realizes this is bad, because refusing her would be cruel, but agreeing could expose that Amane has been teaching him. Panicking, Amane blurts out that Nanao absolutely cannot join, then right away snaps at herself for being all over the place. Flustered and unable to contain her jealousy, Amane blurts out that what they are doing could get awkward, and Izumi instantly calls out how absurd that sounds. Nanao covers her mouth in shock, and right away realizes Amane's outburst is completely off. Izumi tries to calm Amane down and asks what is going on with her, while Nanao nervously fears this is only about to get worse. And in that moment, Amane finally puts her own feelings into words, at least to herself. With a burst of resolve, Amane declares that if Nanao wants to pursue Izumi, she first needs to know whether Izumi feels the same way. Nanao freezes where she stands, stunned by what Amane has just dragged into the open. Amane presses harder and warns that leading someone on like that would be cruel, calling out both Nanao and Izumi directly. Caught off guard, Izumi awkwardly admits that she is right. Amane then demands an answer on the spot and insists that Izumi clearly say who he likes. Even while fidgeting in embarrassment, she forces herself onward and admits it is hard for her to ask, but she still wants the truth. Izumi finally answers and says there is not really anyone he likes, adding that dating someone just for the sake of it would feel wrong. Amane jerks in total shock, unable to process that answer at all. Izumi stares at her confusion and nervously asks what all of a sudden happened to her. Amane refuses to believe him and blurts out that he has to be joking. Panic rushes through her as she realizes that if he means it, then he never liked her that way at all, and she begs him not to say any more. Her thoughts spiral as she wonders if all the kindness and study notes he gave her really meant nothing romantic. Amane desperately asks herself whether someone could really do all that without feeling anything at all. Then she remembers Izumi already said he only saw her as someone whose weakness he understood, and she realizes he meant it literally from the beginning. The shock leaves Amane dazed, laughing hollowly, while Nanao timidly admits she does not fully understand but still thinks Amane may be right about one thing. A classmate all of a sudden cuts in and asks Izumi to explain a problem, and Amane slams something down as she fumes at how calm he still is. Izumi quickly explains that rearranging the equation makes it easier to follow, while Amane watches him instead of settling down. When Nanao asks Amane how to solve it, Izumi quickly tries to hand the explanation over to her, and Amane forces herself to agree despite still being flustered. Put on the spot, Amane stammers through a vague explanation and reaches for a formula, scrambling to sound like she knows what she is doing. Izumi right away realizes Amane is in no condition to keep pretending, and sees that everything has still left her badly shaken. Looking at her notes, he notices Amane is pointing at harder problems than the one he just explained, which tells him she has mixed up the basics with the applications. As Amane keeps talking, Izumi starts to suspect she is not confused at all, and that this is deliberate. Then Amane gives him a small, knowing smile, and her intentions become impossible to miss. Izumi realizes she is pretending not to understand on purpose, and the truth leaves him sweating. He concludes that both he and Nanao understand the lesson, yet somehow they are acting like students, while Amane, the one who should be learning, has forced them into teaching her. As Amane calmly keeps scribbling while staying uncomfortably close to him, Izumi is jolted by how boldly she has seized control. Then Amane all of a sudden freezes, because the move she made so boldly sends her own emotions surging right back at her. While pretending to look through her notes, Amane deliberately edges closer and leans toward Izumi, acting innocent as if she just lost her place. She looks up at him with a calm, knowing smile, and Izumi panics so badly he can barely tell himself to hold on. Leaning near enough to unsettle him, Amane quietly remarks that his fingers are surprisingly long, and the teasing comment shakes Izumi completely. Nanao finally realizes something is very wrong, and the tension crashes down on all three of them at once. Before anyone can stop her, Amane abruptly ends the session by saying she has work, then rushes out and leaves chaos behind. Out on the stairs, Nanao is left breathless and confused, wondering what on earth happened to Amane after that sudden escape. Izumi instantly regrets letting Amane leave alone and starts after her, worried he handled everything badly. But Amane pops back into view and bluntly asks if he can walk home with her, then needles him by asking if his heart is made of steel. As Izumi looks back at her, he admits to himself that Amane is far more dangerous to his composure than he expected, and he still cannot look away. Amane blushes and smiles to herself, clearly still shaken by how much her own stunt affected her. While Izumi struggles to steady himself, Nanao calls out to him, confused by how visibly rattled he is. Izumi quietly asks if Nanao noticed how strange the study session became. Nanao confirms that she noticed it too. Izumi explains that Amane is under intense pressure from her father. He adds that Amane is desperately trying to live up to the perfect image she created for herself. Nanao turns serious and asks Izumi to keep that private. Izumi agrees right away, and Nanao gently says she understands. The heavy mood breaks at once when Nanao admits she still wants to tease Amane a little, and Izumi protests that they were just having a sincere moment. Nanao lightly clarifies that teasing Amane is a completely separate issue, and says it like that settles everything. In Izumi's mind, Amane's earlier whispers still ring out. Her vow to make him fall for her had left him shaken and off balance. The narration then shifts to the late transfer student, Nanao Nanase, walking in beside Izumi as the center of this tangled mess. Elsewhere, a determined girl swears she will never let Hakuya Shiragiku get her way, setting the stage for yet another rivalry. A second later, she jolts awake in confusion, panicking about the time and wondering where she even is. The title card and credits roll in as lunch begins, with Izumi and Nanao already seated together in the classroom. Noticing Sato, Izumi asks if he already bought lunch, but even he sounds distracted. Sato instantly worries he did something wrong when he spots Izumi with Nanao, and feels the strange tension in the air. Another classmate loudly assumes Sato came to mock them over their mixer disaster and snapped that he should go eat with the transfer student instead. Inside, Izumi can feel the rumor growing out of control, and he quietly insists that he is not dating Nanao. The boys push even harder, saying they feel bad for Nanao and demanding to know why he is not dating her if he acts so full of himself. They keep booing Izumi and insist that Nanao Nanase is exactly his type, perfect in every way, and accuse him of being absurdly picky. Izumi looks exhausted, because hearing Nanao praised as some pure ideal only makes the pressure around him feel even more ridiculous. Once the teasing finally starts to fade, Izumi gives up on the chaos, decides to eat alone, and walks off with fake insults chasing after him. The scene shifts to the rooftop, where Izumi ends up eating lunch alone, until Nanao appears beside the wall. Nanao notices he has no lunch and asks if he sometimes skips bringing a bento, while Izumi admits today just turned out that way and quietly wonders how she keeps finding him. Izumi asks if she always brings a bento, and Nanao answers that her mother makes it for her. That answer hits harder than expected, and Izumi reflects that taking someone's kindness for granted is dangerous, especially when Hakuya Shiragiku oddly failed to bring him lunch that morning. Still eating, Nanao starts to say the situation reminds her of something, and her expression slowly turns thoughtful. Trying to fill the silence, Izumi awkwardly mentions that the boys in class were calling Nanao his pure ideal, and she instantly teases him about making her blush. She pushes the joke even further, saying everyone sees her as pure white Nanao, while he seems to see a darker little troublemaker instead, then dares him to deny it. Nanao boldly admits that she likes Izumi either way, whether she is acting pure or teasing, and Izumi instantly realizes her troublemaking side is fully unleashed. Refusing to get cornered, Izumi smoothly says that hearing something like that from a wonderful girl like Nanao would not shake him at all. For one brief second, Izumi feels triumphant for finally pushing back, until Nanao goes silent and stares at him, cheeks flushed. Then Nanao confesses that she is acting this way because she likes Izumi and is trying her hardest to make him see her as wonderful. That blunt honesty destroys Izumi's composure on the spot, and while he blurts out his shock, Nanao shyly admits she only needed one opening. At that exact moment, Hakuya Shiragiku all of a sudden appears on the rooftop and acts as if finding Izumi there is pure coincidence. Izumi awkwardly points out how unusual it is for Hakuya Shiragiku to be on the rooftop, while Nanao right away locks onto her in alarm. The instant the two girls face each other, the air turns dangerous, and the rooftop starts to crackle with hostility. Caught between them, Izumi feels the same pressure Amane gave him before, and another overwhelming situation starts closing in. Before he can even recover, Hakuya Shiragiku steps in beside him and casually asks to eat lunch together, driving the pressure even higher. With the rooftop tension already boiling, Hakuya Shiragiku all of a sudden spits out her milk when Nanao bluntly asks if she really came all this way just to chase Izumi. Flustered and soaked, Hakuya Shiragiku desperately insists it is all a coincidence while scrambling to recover before she embarrasses herself even more. Then, Shizuno Mitsushima steps onto the rooftop and coolly notes that things seem unusually lively today. Hakuya Shiragiku freezes the moment she sees Shizuno and realizes the student council president just walked straight into the confrontation. Shizuno casually greets Izumi and apologizes for the interruption, which only leaves him even more confused by why she is here. Izumi can barely process any of it, while the girls nearby are stunned that the usually distant ice princess is actually smiling. Hakuya Shiragiku nervously asks Izumi if he knows the student council president, forcing him toward an answer he clearly does not want exposed. As Izumi fumbles for words, and the moment becomes awkward and difficult to ignore, before he can steady himself, Shizuno walks straight up to them and calmly declares that Izumi is her fiancé. The rooftop explodes in shock, and Hakuya Shiragiku is left reeling as the situation around Izumi gets even worse. Hakuya Shiragiku nearly short-circuits on the spot, while Izumi panics and blurts out her name in alarm, trying to seize control of the chaos. Hakuya Shiragiku introduces herself as the student council president and formally addresses Nanao Nanase. Nanao Nanase calmly returns the greeting and offers a handshake, while Hakuya watches her with a tense, unreadable stare. Hakuya Shiragiku pointedly reminds Nanao of her place as heir to the Shiragiku family and student council president, and the rooftop grows even heavier. With a cold smile, Shizuno Mitsushima cuts in and implies that her fiancé Izumi seems to be drawing far too much attention. Pinned between powerful girls and public claims he cannot explain, Izumi can only shrink under the unbearable awkwardness. Hakuya Shiragiku lets out an awkward laugh and tries to tell herself she simply pushed too far, hoping Shizuno will understand the difference in their positions. Instead, Nanao lights up at the complication and excitedly decides that love only gets more intense when obstacles stand in the way. Hakuya Shiragiku can do nothing but stare in baffled silence, completely thrown off by Nanao's reaction. While Hakuya is still trying to process it, Nanao cheerfully scolds Izumi for not wanting her sooner, and casually concludes that Shizuno must be his former fiancé instead. Nanao boldly argues that if Shizuno is no longer Izumi's fiancé, then there should be no problem with her pursuing him. Her fearless reply crashes headfirst into Shizuno's cold presence, and the rooftop tension surges again as neither of them backs down. Hakuya watches in stunned silence and realizes that Nanao's rumored boldness is painfully real. As Nanao keeps pushing forward, even the others are shaken, and she treats her first-day confession and this mess-like proof that Izumi is worth fighting for. Shizuno lowers her gaze and decides to use the move she had hoped to avoid until now. She, all of a sudden, lifts a bag toward Izumi and instantly pulls everyone's eyes to her next move. Shizuno calmly tells Izumi that he forgot it that morning, revealing the lunch she brought for him. Izumi freezes as the meaning behind her move slowly starts to sink in. Shizuno then reveals that she deliberately did not give Izumi his lunch earlier because she had been saving it for this exact moment. To prove her special place in his life, she dramatically presents the lunchbox and declares that she will show the difference in their standing. With everyone watching, Hakuya jolts and instinctively lifts her own food toward Izumi, trying to answer Shizuno's challenge. The rooftop drops into confused silence as the others stare, unable to tell what Hakuya is about to do. Hakuya starts to say she will show the difference between them, but the words die as panic overtakes her. Inside, Hakuya completely unravels and realizes she cannot bring herself to make such a public display in front of everyone. She instantly sees the fatal flaw in Shizuno's trap, because doing that in public would destroy the refined image she has built so carefully. As the poised student council president and future heir to Shiragiku Confectionery, Hakuya feels the full weight of that status crash down on her. She imagines her public image shattering right there on the spot, and the weight of that reputation freezes her in place. Thoughts of everyone tied to the Shiragiku family business drive her even deeper into crisis, until the choice feels impossible. Izumi can only sit there in complete confusion, while Hakuya trembles with embarrassment and struggles to move. Then Shizuno calmly steps in, places the food directly in Izumi's hands, and makes him accept it, proving her boldness and leaving him stunned. Hakuya reels from the shock and humiliation of watching Shizuno single Izumi out in front of everyone. Shizuno then asks Izumi how it tasted, pressing her advantage without a trace of hesitation. Izumi awkwardly admits it tasted good, though he is clearly still shaken by how sudden and public it was. Pleased with that answer, Shizuno happily reveals that she made the egg roll herself, making the moment even more personal. Those words strike Hakuya hard, and the realization lands like one more crushing blow. As Hakuya begins to walk away in a daze, Nanao notices and wonders where Shiragiku-senpai is going. Hakuya leaves wrapped in a terrifying aura of bottled-up rage, unable to hide how deeply this defeat cut her. While the others tremble at her presence, Hakuya bitterly admits to herself that this loss came from the weakness in her own heart. Shizuno coldly mocks Hakuya for having such a small fighting spirit, twisting the humiliation even deeper. Burning with rage but composed enough to stay honest, Hakuo declares that she has never suffered such severe humiliation and acknowledges Shizuno as her rival. Still seething from the disgrace, Hakuo vows that she will take Izumi back no matter what, and defeats Shizuno in the end. Just then, the vice president of the student council notices Hakuo and hesitates, sensing the dangerous mood radiating from her. The vice president realizes this is the only way to handle the chaos and starts searching everywhere for the student council president. The situation shifts into territory no one prepared for. The girls reading the chat react in disbelief, calling the transfer student unbelievably bold, while another admits she has now received a message from Hakuo too. A new message arrives from a literature club saying someone wants Haru to come check out the club today, and that request right away draws attention. The moment Haru sees the message, she falls silent, clearly realizing something serious is happening. Soon after, the student council president forcefully calls a meeting and proposes an official campus-wide ban on the public feeding stunt. As the school bell rings, the tense lunchtime uproar is finally cut off by the end of break. After all that chaos, Izumi drags himself along in exhaustion and admits he is unbelievably tired today. Still drained from lunch, Izumi tells himself he will go to the literature club after school to calm down and read, while thinking how lunch became a disaster because Nanao and Hakuo acted far beyond anything he expected. Before he can relax, Nanao all of a sudden slides up beside him and overwhelms him again with open attention, making him recoil in alarm. Izumi realizes she is right there beside him and thinks the true center of all today's chaos has been Nanao Nanase. Nanao cheerfully points out that ever since transferring in, she has kept throwing off Izumi's rhythm and says that kinda sudden attention must have hit him hard. Izumi corrects her by saying it started before the transfer, because her blunt confession and request to date him had already shaken him badly. As Nanao keeps calling out to him, Izumi grows exasperated by how simple and direct she is, then admits to himself that this straightforward pressure is exactly what makes her so hard to handle. Izumi says he was trying to forget all that, but Nanao instantly says she is going with him to the club and excitedly looks forward to visiting the literature club. The moment Nanao learns Izumi belongs to the literature club, her curiosity spikes, and she eagerly decides she wants to observe it today. Izumi worries he already has enough trouble dealing with Haru's pranks, and grimly realizes that if Nanao joins in, his quiet reading time is finished. As they reach the library prep room, and the moment takes an uncomfortable turn, Izumi had assumed he warned the first-year girls ahead of time, so Nanao, coming only to observe, should have been harmless. Or so he thought. Instead, a stern club member shuts it down at once, ordering the outsider to leave the second Nanao steps inside. Izumi remembers Inori once saying, Haru only shows that side of herself when she is protecting Inori, even though she is usually calm. Seeing Haru come down this hard, Izumi realizes that same protective instinct is now aimed straight at Nanao. Haru flatly refuses, saying the club room is cramped enough already, and they do not need more people wandering in on top of this. She pushes even further, calling the literature club the one place tying herself, Inori, and their senior together, and that only sharpens her guard. In her head, Haru counts Nanao's offenses, recalling how on day one she pulled Izumi aside to confess, then later fed him lunch in public. Certain Nanao is a shameless intruder threatening their circle, Haru looks to Inori for backup and prepares to shut it all down. But Inori gently cuts in, saying they cannot leave a guest standing there, then politely invites Nanao inside. Haru gets pulled along in disbelief as Inori tells everyone not to mind Nanao's presence, while Izumi can only watch the reversal in stunned silence. As Izumi stands there sweating, Inori quietly pulls Haru aside and hints that she needs to explain something important. With an apologetic look and the interaction becomes difficult to navigate, Inori bluntly declares that Haru already lost because she waited too long, and the situation shifts into territory no one prepared for. Trying to calm the room, Izumi awkwardly says Nanao is not a bad person, while Nanao cheerfully introduces herself as a cute underclassman. Haru stays on edge and notices Nanao is not even shaken, making her suspect the hostility only helped the girl adapt faster. Nanao casually asks Izumi if he finds her charming now, then remembers to ask whether he was also in the archery club at his old school, as if it is all just small talk. The moment Izumi confirms it, Nanao lights up like she has finally found the opening she wanted. Without missing a beat, Nanao uses that tiny connection to ask Izumi to go out with her over the coming weekend, leaving him baffled by how fast this just escalated. Haru and Inori both freeze at the sudden invitation, and the tension in the room spikes all over again. When Izumi objects that it sounds like a date, Nanao innocently reframes it as a simple request for someone familiar with Tokyo to show her around, since her old school was in the countryside. Izumi turns toward Inori the instant she calls out to her senior, already feeling the pressure rising again. Inori bluntly warns Nanao that being vice president or close to Izumi does not give her the right to treat him like personal property, and says the literature club is no place for personal games, forcing Nanao to back down and apologize. Izumi tries to explain that Nanao only moved way too boldly by asking so all of a sudden, but she refuses to hear it and keeps insisting it was not a date. Haru trembles in disbelief and blurts out that the two really do look like they are going out, while Inori quietly starts recording the chaos from the side. Izumi hurriedly denies it and reminds everyone that he and Nanao only just reunited, but Nanao reacts with gloomy disappointment as if he rejected her. Inori takes a hit when Izumi casually adds that no one would even want to go out with him anyway, and the shock shows all over her face. That one remark makes Inori realize Haru may still have a chance after all, and her mood flips in an instant. Inori all of a sudden lunges toward Haru in relief, while Izumi awkwardly tries to drag the room back toward normal club activities. Lowering her voice, Inori whispers that simply confirming Izumi and Nanao are not going out is already enough for now, and urges Haru to focus. As Izumi watches uneasily, Inori clings to Haru and tells her this is no time to get jealous, she needs to stay composed under pressure. Izumi grows more unsettled by the second, and starts wondering if everyone around him has been acting strangely lately. Once club activities resume, Nanao apologizes for not knowing how to match Izumi's pace while staying too close and asking him to wait so they can read together. Haru stares at them in disbelief, notices the unusually tense mood around their shared reading, and senses fresh trouble closing in. Unable to hold it back, Haru bursts out that reading is supposed to be quiet and demands to know why two people even need to crowd around one book like that. Izumi awkwardly suggests using small signals instead of talking, but Nanao calmly stays near him and makes even that normal solution feel strained. Heavy silence drops over the room, and Haru watches in shock as the air only grows thicker. Then, right in that silence, Nanao casually taps Izumi's leg and catches him completely off guard. A moment later, she taps again more firmly, and Izumi jolts in alarm as he struggles to understand what she is doing. While Nanao keeps signaling at his leg with open impatience, Izumi goes rigid and panics in confusion. Across from them, Haru and Inori freeze wide-eyed as they realize the situation just became even harder to control. The two remain locked in shock, with Haru realizing this has gone far beyond awkward club reading and Inori unable to make sense of what Nanao is trying to do. Inside, Izumi panics, realizes this is turning seriously bad, and desperately wonders what Nanao is thinking. Nanao quietly calls to Izumi, forcing his full attention onto her while the pressure between them thickens even more. When Izumi protests about her so-called signal, Nanao bluntly explains that she has been trying to tell him to turn the page for a while, making it all sound like a badly misunderstood attempt at communication. Still burning with embarrassment, Haru all of a sudden rises to her feet, unable to stay seated after hearing that explanation. Without another word, Haru heads straight for the door and leaves the clubroom in stiff, flustered silence. Out in the hallway, Haru breaks down in outrage and humiliation, convinced the literature club has turned into something completely improper. Back inside, Nanao matter-of-factly explains that she was only trying to quietly read the same book as Izumi, while Izumi realizes how suspicious their shared reading looks from every angle. Hearing that, Haru grits her teeth and decides she will not let Nanao control the room so easily. She storms back in, drops into the seat right beside Izumi, and forces herself into the same shared reading position as Nanao, while Izumi recoils at the fresh escalation. Haru all of a sudden declares that she will read together with Izumi too, and he can only stare at her in stunned disbelief, wondering why she is pushing this so hard. Overwhelmed by Haru's sudden move, Izumi quietly begs Inori to do something and stop her. Instead of stopping it, Inori admits she almost wants to record the scene because Haru looks strangely energized by the chaos, leaving Izumi even more unsettled. Panicking at the thought of losing ground, Haru compares this to a split-second defeat and urgently presses Izumi to open the book at once. She starts to call out Nanao and Izumi for acting like they are flirting, but her emotions outrun her words. Her condition becomes unstable and difficult to control. She pulls herself back just in time, flustered by the fact that competing to sit beside Izumi and read the same book now carries a meaning she can no longer ignore. Izumi notices her trembling and asks if she is really okay, while Haru jolts at being confronted directly and gets told she is acting unusually strange today. That question hits too hard, and Haru collapses backward in pure embarrassment while Izumi can only stare in alarm. Inori smoothly steps in and casually claims Haru is fine, saying this kind of breakdown apparently just happens sometimes. Haru abruptly announces that she is going home and staggers off, while Izumi anxiously asks if she is really okay. Izumi hurries after her, and Haru flusteredly says she is leaving first, right before he tells her to wait, outside the library prep room, and the situation becomes awkward. As they walk together, Haru tries to steady herself and admits that Izumi is surprisingly popular. Izumi asks who she means, and Haru points to the underclassman who acts cold toward him while clearly giving him special attention. She then checks whether his weekend outing really is not a date, while Izumi realizes she is strangely focused on that plan and Nanao has already said she is looking forward to it. Inori bluntly tells Haru to be more honest with herself, warning that Izumi will be taken away if she keeps hesitating. She presses harder by pointing out that those two are about to spend the weekend together while Haru is still dragging her feet. Haru flushes and falters, admitting that even hearing that, she still cannot bring herself to move forward. Then two girls call out from behind, stopping Haru and Inori in the hallway and demanding their attention. The two girls corner Haru and Inori in the hallway and press them to explain what Haru had just said, instantly putting both of them on the spot. Haru and Inori freeze and shrink back together, startled by the sudden confrontation and unable to answer right away. Later, Izumi waits alone at the station with his phone, making it clear the promised weekend outing is finally here. He hears someone call his name and turns toward the voice at once. Haru arrives in casual clothes, apologizes for making him wait, and reveals that she really did come to meet him after all. Caught off guard and flustered, Izumi tells her she is still early, making it obvious he did not expect her to show up like this. Haru explains that the city trains kept confusing her and made her lose track of time, trying to hide her nerves while facing him. Even so, she steels herself and decides she will not keep getting pushed around, forcing herself to take a bolder stance with Izumi. Inwardly, Haru resolves that today she will take control, and Izumi can only react with puzzled surprise to her sudden intensity. Then she corners him with the real reason she rushed over, insisting it was not about being late at all. She wanted to see him as soon as possible. Haru tells herself that her preemptive move landed, trying to stay confident after boldly admitting she rushed over because she wanted to see Izumi. She quickly doubles down with an eager smile, acting as if that answer was obviously the right one. Stepping closer, Haru asks what Izumi thinks, specifically wanting his opinion on how she looks in her casual clothes. Izumi is thrown off by the sudden pressure, and the scene grows awkward with no easy escape. Flustered, Izumi insists it is just a coincidence, and hurriedly says he had been meaning to buy new clothes anyway. Haru accepts that on the surface and happily says she can let him have his way, while Izumi gives in with a reluctant nod. Then Haru shifts the mood again and quietly asks if that means today is a date. Izumi reacts instantly and sharply denies it, snapping back in panic at the implication. Still embarrassed, he firmly insists it is not a date, while Haru answers with a small amused sound instead of backing off. Haru laughs at how hard Izumi is trying to act smooth, and that playful jab only leaves him more embarrassed as her bold momentum keeps building. She keeps teasing and points out that Izumi himself said he does not like anyone right now, so she argues there should be no problem with a girl asking him to spend time with her for the moment. Completely cornered, Izumi awkwardly admits that it is not really like that. Haru silently scolds his uselessly vague answer, clearly frustrated that he still will not respond properly. Izumi lowers his voice and explains that he simply cannot imagine someone spending time with him just for his sake. Haru realizes his denial comes more from low confidence than rejection, and she pauses as he insists that is all he meant. Before the mood can settle, Izumi all of a sudden grabs Haru and urges her to move, startling her with the abrupt contact. Still holding her hand, Izumi explains that Kyoto is crowded and says they could get separated otherwise. Flustered by how naturally he took her hand, he blurts out that Haru does realize how noticeable she is, and that only makes it easier for them to get separated. Haru freezes, overwhelmed by the unexpected compliment, and can barely force out a shaky agreement. Nearby, a group of girls notices Izumi leaving with Haru and excitedly decides to chase after them, while one casually wonders if this might turn into a late lunch. Haru was still reeling from Izumi calling her cute, and all she wanted was to get home. So why was she still standing here? At that exact moment, the girls who spotted Izumi with Haru launched a full-tailing mission, without hesitating once. As they crept after him, they even mocked how suspicious girls looked when they bunched together just to follow a boy who was obviously on a date. But then the scene pulls back, and one observer points out that a coordinated chase like this was not like them at all, which meant something had to explain it. A few days earlier, while Nanao was visiting the literature club, one girl dragged herself down the hall looking completely drained. She confessed that the rumors about Peita being Izumi's fiancé, mixed with how little time she had with Izumichi lately, had pushed her into a full-blown crisis. Overwhelmed by it all, she spiraled and wondered what in the world she was supposed to do now. Lost in that mess, she bumped into another girl in the hallway and froze instantly. Startled, she recognized the student council president as Amane Amasaki, the second year who had eaten lunch with Izumi before. Another girl quickly pointed out that Amane Amasaki was also the one working as a model, making Izumi's growing circle of girls feel even more threatening. The exhausted girl all of a sudden realized the person in front of her was the very one who had been stuck in her head. She bluntly demanded to know why Amane Amasaki did not just give up on Izumi-kun already. She argued that Amane did not even have a chance, saying that if things were already hard on the rooftop, she would never survive the real stage. Under her breath, she bitterly recalled how one girl had already fed Izumi first and then run off, and that memory made her frustration boil. Amane instantly fired back, mocking the girl for acting superior now when she usually folded the second anyone pushed back. The two glared at each other from point-blank range, and their rivalry turned openly vicious. Just as the tension hit its peak, someone called out for Haru, slicing straight through the confrontation. From the side, another observer remarked that Haru was going on a date this weekend, and warned that senpai might really be stolen away. Hearing that, the two girls stopped cold as the word date sank in, and all of a sudden they were the ones being forced to answer. That shocking realization pulled the others in too, and that was how the whole group ended up secretly tailing the pair. Inori reluctantly joined the tailing group and nervously pointed out that following someone like this felt like a terrible idea. The others insisted they had to keep a close eye on Haru and Izumi, with Amane Amasaki calling it student council duty as the group vowed to stop anything if needed. Even though Inori only wanted to go home, they kept following because they could not believe Izumi-kun would make a mistake. And then they saw the pair enter a shop. The girls tracked Haru and Izumi to a restaurant called Spicy and watched closely to see what this supposed date would become. Inside, the food arrived, and the second they saw each other's plates, the mood shifted into something far more awkward. As they ate together, Haru noticed Izumi hesitating and quietly wondered if he wanted the curry too, making his uncertainty impossible to hide. Catching that reaction, Haru boldly offered him a bite of her food, and left Izumi completely stunned. Izumi awkwardly tried to stay sensible and said it would only be fine if she gave him a clean spoon, showing he was flustered but not really refusing. Haru ignored the distance he tried to create and dropped food right onto his spoon before he could stop her. As Haru happily urged him to eat, someone all of a sudden cut in from nearby, threatening to shatter the tense mood on the spot. Haru ignored the interruption completely and leaned in with smug, teasing calm, making Izumi realize she had no intention of backing down. Izumi, burning with embarrassment, told himself to just get it over with and stay still, even as Haru's pace boxed him in. Haru kept pressing and held out the bite expectantly, making it even harder for Izumi to escape. Izumi hesitated and nervously wondered if this was really okay, but his resistance was already starting to give way. Haru softly called to Izumi, and he jolted in panic as she kept his attention fixed on the bite in front of him. Before he could recover, Haru took the food herself and cheerfully told him to hurry and eat, turning his fluster into total confusion. After tasting it, Haru sweetly said Izumi's food was delicious, making the exchange feel even more awkwardly personal. Izumi was left overwhelmed and wondered why he was the only one this embarrassed, while Haru stayed perfectly calm. Haru then offered to trade bites in return, but Izumi right away refused because she had already used that spoon, and she only kept smiling through his panic. Izumi fell silent at her boldness, unable to answer as the strained mood lingered between them. The silence between them only grew heavier, and neither of them moved to break it. The scene stayed frozen in uneasy stillness, as if one wrong move would change everything. Quiet tension covered the table, and neither of them knew how to escape it cleanly. The situation remained unresolved, and the pressure kept climbing. Nothing changed on the surface, but the moment kept tightening around them. The atmosphere stayed charged as both of them said nothing, and that silence said enough. The moment held all its weight, with no clear shift to release it. The silence between them grew harder and harder to ignore. The scene remained frozen in that uneasy stillness, stretching it to its limit. The situation still refused to resolve, and the pressure kept building. The girl insisted the broken engagement had been real, explained that their parents chose it, and Izumi-kun had no say, then admitted he had always acted like a true gentleman even during the dispute. Even so, she realized she had somehow forgotten that crucial detail, and the contradiction rattled her. As that memory hit, she angrily admitted Izumi-kun seemed to have completely moved on, and her frustration grew so intense she nearly bent her spoon. Trying to calm the rising tension, another girl awkwardly asked Haru when she first met Izumi-kun. Haru hesitated for a moment, then prepared to explain how it had all started for her. Haru revealed that back in middle school, she and Inori got mixed up with some dangerous-looking delinquents, and the words they used to drive them off only made things worse. She said that was exactly the kind of reckless thing Izumi-kun would do, then explained that senpai happened to pass by at that moment and help them out. Haru added that the trouble seemed over for the time being, but not long after, they crossed paths again. During their high school entrance exams, she and Inori happened to see senpai calmly directing people and helping everyone find the right floor. Haru excitedly called that meeting a fated reunion, while Inori right away shut down her dramatic version before it could spiral any further. Then Inori tensely added that something else was still bothering her. Sinking into gloom, Haru realized senpai did not seem to remember her at all, and the others could only react awkwardly. Another girl then turned to Amane Amasaki and asked what her own history with him was. Amane Amasaki froze under the sudden attention, then hesitated in visible discomfort. She explained that when she missed class because of modeling work, Izumi-kun quietly took notes for her and even offered to show her the important parts. But that thought instantly made her compare her small kindness to the others' dramatic memories, and all of a sudden, her own story felt painfully weak. Inori pointed out that people normally did not do that without a reason, while another girl admitted it still felt unusually considerate for Izumi-kun. That made Amane Amasaki brighten at once, and she eagerly agreed that this was exactly why she still had hope. Then her confidence wavered again as she wondered if she had completely misunderstood everything, leaving the others pitying her. One of the girls softly suggested that maybe they had all been drawn to the same kind of person for the same reason. The girls openly admitted that pretending to be friends now would feel fake when they were still rivals underneath. They right away agreed to settle things fairly, telling each other there should be no hard feelings no matter who won. Each of them steeled herself with that same resolve, fully aware they would eventually split apart at the end of this heroine race. As that temporary bond hung in the air, the quiet observer kept eating and reminded herself that there was still one important thing they could not forget. She realized the brutal truth. Every single girl at that table was a losing heroine. In her eyes, the whole spying operation turned pathetic, with everyone sneaking after a date only to nurse their own wounds together. Then, the mood snapped when she noticed Haru and Izumi were already paying the bill, and she urged the others to hurry and finish eating. Outside the restaurant, Spicy, Izumi awkwardly pointed out that lunch was over, leaving the date hanging in a brief standstill. Trying to keep things moving, Izumi asked Nanao if there was anywhere she wanted to go, while she thought hard about what to do next in Tokyo. Nanao then realized, with an uneasy laugh, that they had come out together without ever deciding on a destination. The moment stretched on without changing, and neither of them had an easy answer. The weight of that pause lingered, offering no relief at all. Their interaction left both of them unsettled, and it showed. The moment held its weight, with no clear shift to save them. The atmosphere stayed charged as neither of them said anything. The scene froze again in that uneasy stillness. Quiet tension followed them, hanging over everything they said next. The tense moment continued without really changing, and that only made it worse. The tension carried forward without breaking, stubborn and unresolved. The interaction left both of them unsettled, and neither could hide it. The awkward silence finally broke when the girls realized they had completely lost sight of Izumi and Nanao, leaving them startled and scrambling. At the same time, Izumi and Nanao ended up standing in front of a clothing store, still trying to keep their uncertain date alive. Nanao admitted that even without a plan, Izumi kept decisively suggesting places to go, and she quietly praised how reliable he seemed. She added that she was extremely indecisive herself, so his ability to choose a direction felt amazing to her. Caught off guard by the praise, Izumi revealed that his family ran a major trading company. He reflected that he had once been considered a possible heir, and because of that, people had drilled all kinds of expectations into him, including the belief that indecision was unacceptable at the top. Nanao hesitated, then carefully asked whether his family company might be the Sumi Group. Izumi told her not to worry because he had not deliberately hidden it, though the question clearly unsettled him. Nanao reacted in confusion when Izumi explained that the one set to inherit the family was his little sister, while he was treated as practically cast aside. Izumi dryly added that people might call that talent or suitability, making his family situation sound even more complicated. Izumi explained that the bigger a company gets, the more lives start depending on it, so ordinary hard work alone stops being enough, and without a talent like his sister's, he said, people simply fall behind. He awkwardly added that he had already made peace with it, admitting his sister's talent was the real thing, and that she worked just as hard. As for his own decisiveness, Izumi told Nanao it was nothing special, just the kind of thing people without talent claim to by working harder at the few things anyone can do. Trying to pull the conversation somewhere safer, he glanced at the clothes around them and recalled hearing that pastel blue was this year's trend. Nanao remarked that Izumi seemed to know a lot about fashion too, and he quickly waved it off by saying he was only repeating what Amane had told him. The second Amane's name came up. Nanao paused, then lightly pointed out that Izumi really did bring up other girls at moments like this, and he visibly winced. But Nanao brightened right after that and asked whether fashion expert Izumi could help pick clothes that would suit her, leaving him staring at her sudden request. Caught completely off guard, Izumi hesitated, then nervously suggested that maybe that outfit would look good on her. Nanao studied his reaction with a teasing little smile, and when he uncertainly asked if that answer was no good, she only made him feel even more exposed. Making up her mind at once, Nanao said she would try it on and headed for the fitting room, telling Izumi to wait there and he could only watch her go. She stepped into the fitting area, then stopped just long enough to firmly tell Izumi to stay right in front of the room, making the oddly specific order leave him baffled. Alone at last, Izumi folded his arms and admitted to himself that he still could not calm down. His thoughts right away spiraled back to the date, and he started worrying that he might have said far too much earlier. For a moment, Izumi even wondered whether Nanao might somehow be connected to his father or the Shiragiku family, especially after he had revealed so much about his home life. He shut that suspicion down almost right away, telling himself there was no way she would come at him that aggressively if that were true. Then Nanao all of a sudden peeked out from the fitting room to check whether Izumi was really still there, and he nervously confirmed that he was. From behind the curtain, Nanao quietly complained that Izumi's reaction felt a little too calm, like he was not nearly embarrassed enough, and he awkwardly asked when that had become a requirement, while still admitting it bothered him that she might think he was used to this. Without missing a beat, Nanao casually asked whether they could go to the shop across from there next, and Izumi could only repeat the idea back in surprise. When he looked toward the other store, the glittering displays and mannequins told him instantly that Nanao was about to drag this date somewhere even more dangerous for his nerves. The moment he realized what kind of shop she meant, Izumi panicked and called for her to wait, but even his protest came out weak. As the pressure climbed, Izumi realized Nanao's feelings did not seem fake at all, and every instinct sharpened by his upbringing told him her affection was real. He tried desperately to clear his head, but the sound of movement behind the curtain only made him more aware of how far the date had already gone. Izumi's thoughts started racing, and the idea of Nanao appearing in that outfit nearly overwhelmed him where he stood. The thought hit him so hard that he froze completely, his mind refusing to process any of it calmly. Then Nanao stepped out at last and apologized for making him wait, jolting Izumi straight into panic. Seeing the look on his face, Nanao anxiously asked if something was wrong and whether she looked strange, and Izumi hurriedly blurted out that the outfit suited her, that she looked cute. The instant the words left his mouth, Izumi cringed inside and wondered why that childish compliment was the best he could do. Even so, Nanao blushed hard, let out a nervous laugh, and thanked him. Clearly hit harder than she expected. Watching that reaction, Izumi realized this awkward but sincere side of hers was exactly what kept knocking him off balance. Trying to steady herself, Nanao turned away and admitted that she preferred to keep a comfortable distance between herself and the people around her. And yet, even while saying that, Nanao started trying on one outfit after another, as if she were brushing right past that heavy confession. Izumi noticed that despite how casual she acted, that same vulnerable expression from earlier still slipped through now and then. That contrast wrecked what little composure he had left, and he admitted to himself that being around Nano kept throwing him into chaos. Elsewhere, Shizuno walked through the station with shopping bags in hand, reflecting on how unexpectedly intense the day had become. She was satisfied that she had managed to grow closer to the others, but losing sight of Izumi and Nanao halfway through still kept bothering her. So Shizuno encouraged herself by thinking that since Izumi and Nanao were not officially dating yet, she still had a chance, and tomorrow, she would discuss a strategy with Hakuya-san and Haruchi. Just as that thought settled in, something caught Shizuno's eye and stopped her cold. Across the opposite platform, she was stunned to spot Izumi and Nanao standing there alone. Then, right in front of her, Nanao stepped close enough to place a hand on Izumi's shoulder, catching him off guard. A second later, Nanao leaned in so near that the scene looked deeply personal, leaving Izumi frozen as the tension between them spiked again. Shizuno could only stare as the image of Nanao standing so close to Izumi on that station platform burned itself into her mind. Remembering that Izumi had said he was not dating Nanao, Shizuno argued with herself that even if Nanao had confessed, he would not have accepted so easily. He had clearly told her they were not together, and now that memory kept colliding with what she had just seen. Shizuno also remembered that Hakuya-san and Haruchi had been told the same thing, which only made the confusion twist deeper. Even as she walked away, Shizuno could not stop asking herself what that tense moment on the platform had really meant if Izumi and Nanao were not dating. By the next day, that unresolved jealousy and doubt had hit Shizuno so hard that she collapsed face down on her desk in class. When Izumi arrived and casually greeted the room, another student noticed Shizuno's state and asked if something had happened to her. Before Izumi could even settle in, Amane abruptly dragged him into the hallway and demanded a private word, leaving him completely rattled. Izumi recoiled in panic as Amane cornered him so all of a sudden that he had no idea how to respond. With sharp suspicion, Amane demanded to know what he had done to Nanao, and Izumi desperately insisted that he honestly had no idea what was going on. Still trapped in that hallway confrontation, Izumi insisted that even if Amane said so, he truly could not think of anything he had done, while Amane fired back that he must have, because Nanao had been acting completely unlike herself since that morning. Another girl cut in and bluntly asked what had happened while she was away, and Amane answered with certainty that something had definitely been off about Nanao. Pressed for more, Amane revealed that it started after she saw Izumi going somewhere alone with the girl, and the others right away pointed out that he was not even in Nanao's class, making it sound even stranger. When they asked whether she knew what might be wrong with Nanao, Amane could only mutter that she did not think so, and that left them with nothing. Amane apologized and admitted she had simply never seen Nanao like that before, and the anger in her voice gave way to visible worry. As the confrontation cooled into uneasy silence, both girls were left shaken by the thought that Nanao's change might be more serious than they had guessed. That unease lingered through the day, and even in class, Shizuno stayed crushed by gloom while Izumi watched her, and the room's heavy mood, with growing concern. After school, Izumi remembered that Amane had spent the entire day looking troubled, and that thought pushed him to decide he could not just leave her alone. He turned back and spotted Amane still by herself in the classroom, and the sight made him pause before speaking. Standing in the doorway, Izumi gathered himself, called out to Amane, and awkwardly asked whether it would be alright to talk during a study session now. Amane apologized for the sudden request, and nervously explained that Nanao had asked her to help with something after this. Izumi took that answer in tense silence, and the air between them turned awkwardly heavy. Flustered, with her books clutched tightly to her chest, Amane forced herself to ask Izumi if he was free this Saturday. The question caught him off guard, and his mind right away jumped to another ordinary weekday study session. Amane hurriedly denied that and explained that she had a modeling job at the shopping mall by the station, then shyly asked if he would come watch. Izumi quietly said he understood and thanked her for inviting him, but the unease on his face made it obvious he was already preparing to turn her down. He then apologized and admitted he had a part-time job shift on Saturday, which made it difficult for him to go. As that moment hung between them, Izumi's thoughts started spiraling, and he anxiously wondered whether that shift was even real, or whether he was just making excuses because he already had plans with Nana. After a brief hesitation, Amane asked if he really liked Nanao that much, and the directness of it stopped him cold. Izumi froze as Saturday and Nanao all of a sudden connected in his head, and with a jolt he realized Amane might already know far more than he thought. Still cornered by that blunt question, Izumi admitted that whether he liked someone, or whether they were going out, was not something he could answer lightly. Amane, tense and sweating, confessed that she honestly still did not really understand those feelings herself. Back in his mind, the memory of the station returned, with Nanao staying close to him, hesitating, and then pushing herself to continue. Nanao had explained that when someone she liked started liking her back, she wanted to respond to those feelings as sincerely as she could. Izumi revealed that after hearing Nanao say that the other day, he had kept turning those words over in his mind. Embarrassed, Izumi said he had only told Amane because talking about it with anyone else felt mortifying, and Amane could only react with disbelieving exasperation. Then Amane all of a sudden broke down in tears, clutching her things to her chest as the weight of what she had just heard crashed down on her all at once. Izumi was completely thrown, staring at her in shock as he realized he had hurt her far more deeply than he expected. Trying to cover herself, Amane forced out an awkward excuse and claimed that something had just gotten in her eye. Unable to stay there any longer, Amane apologized and abruptly said she was going home for the day. She left the hallway in silence, while Izumi could only watch her go and feel the weight of how badly he had shaken her. Saturday arrived, and the scene shifted to the shopping mall where Amane's modeling job was being held. Amane sat down on set and tried to compose herself, but the strain written across her face made it obvious she still had not recovered. She reflected that ever since missing school and work, she had not gotten a single real chance to talk properly with Izumi. Forcing herself not to dwell on him, Amane insisted that she had to focus on the job right in front of her. The cameraman noticed her stiffness right away, and Amane quickly apologized as her nerves started showing in her expression. Seeing how off balance she was, he gently said everyone had bad days and suggested a short break, telling her to think about something fun she wanted to do after the shoot. Amane quietly agreed and walked off alone for the break, still carrying those same troubled feelings with her. As she stepped away, a magazine editor turned to the cameraman and asked what he thought of her condition. The cameraman said Amane's real charm was her natural smile, but today it felt forced. Though he added they could still use the shots they already had if they had to. He admitted he had been photographing Amane for about a year, and that only made him more certain she could do far better than this. Amane right away apologized again, but he gently asked her to hold on just a little longer. Left alone by the sink during the break, Amane stared downward in silence and tried to steady herself. She scolded herself for losing focus and insisted that she had to do her job properly. Amane remembered that Izumi had been the one helping her balance modeling and school through those study sessions, and she realized she no longer knew how to face him after what had happened. As that thought sank deeper, she wondered how she was supposed to smile naturally again when she could not even bear that pain. Before she could pull herself together, Manhwa all of a sudden rushed in and grabbed onto her, jolting Amane completely off guard. Still stunned, Amane blurted out her confusion and asked why Nanao was here. Nanao explained that she had heard Amane was doing a shoot there, so she came with Izumi to watch. Then Nanao brightly added that Izumi had claimed he was working a shift, making his presence there hit Amane even harder. Amane freezes as Nanao bluntly states the truth. Izumi never had work, and he still came here anyway. Cornered and flustered, Amane forces herself to stay calm and asks what Nanao means. But Nanao presses harder by asking why she is not talking to Izumi instead. Without any warning, Nanao steps in close, and Amane tenses instantly. Meeting her eyes head-on, Nanao asks the question Amane wants least to hear. Does she like Izumi? Amane panics and tries to deny it, But Nanao just laughs and says everyone in class has already noticed how obvious she has been lately. She goes even further, saying Izumi might be the only one who still has not noticed. And that thought rocks Amane. The words land hard, and Amane spirals as she realizes her feelings may have been far more visible than she ever feared. Nanao keeps pressing, saying it is almost painful how bad Amane is at hiding it when Izumi still seems completely clueless. All Amane can do is stare, stunned by how easily Nanao says everything out loud. Dragging herself back under control, Amane snaps that Nanao has no right to talk after acting so openly familiar with Izumi in public. Nanao flatly tells her not to play innocent, because she saw Amane clinging to Izumi at the station platform last Saturday, and Amane goes completely blank. As Amane stammers in confusion, Nanao all of a sudden realizes that explains why she has been acting so strange ever since. Before Amane can get a word out, Nanao all of a sudden closes the distance again and leaves her shaken. Leaning in so only Amane can hear, Nanao says Izumi turns bright red whenever she does that, and she even thinks the reaction is cute. That shameless confession jolts Amane, and her mind reels at how far Nanao is actually willing to go. Pointing straight at her, Nanao declares that she finally understands and accuses Amane of acting innocent while secretly trying to get closer to Izumi. Then she calmly asks whether trying her hardest to make the person she likes notice her is really such a terrible thing. She follows that by openly admitting all of this is because she wants Izumi to look her way. Then Nanao throws it back at her and says Amane likes Izumi too, freezing her on the spot. As Amane falters, Nanao adds that Izumi himself once said something important, and she is clearly about to use it. Nanao says Izumi once praised Amane as someone who works desperately hard to live up to her father's and classmates' expectations. She pushes even harder, revealing that Izumi also said her effort made him want to support her and cheer her on. Nanao warns that Izumi has been watching Amane closely all this time, then asks if she is really fine leaving things hanging like this. And just like that, the tension pulls everything into a flashback, back to the summer of Amane Amasaki's first year of high school. In that memory, Amane is called into the student counseling room and asked if she understands why she was summoned there. Her homeroom teacher sternly warns that at this rate, she is going to fall behind. He presses further and tells her that if she gets even one failing grade on the final exams, she will have to quit modeling. When Amane tries to protest, the teacher cuts her off and reminds her they only allowed modeling because she promised to keep school balanced too. Shaken and apologetic, Amane can only nod as he reminds her that she is a student before anything else. After that, the teacher admits this exact outcome is why he opposed letting her model from the very start. In the library flashback, and the interaction becomes difficult to navigate. Overwhelmed, she blames herself for being too busy with work and realizes she has no one she can lean on. As the fear sets in that her modeling career may already be over, a sudden tapping sound tears her attention away. Then Sumire Izumi appears with perfect timing, notices her tears, and casually calls her his lovely little kitten. Amane is completely thrown by that bizarre entrance and can only stare at him in disbelief. Izumi says he had a feeling she might really be forced to quit modeling, and admits that would be awful. He introduces himself properly, says there is no time to waste, and explains that he already checked which subjects will be on the exam, so they can focus only on what matters. Amane realizes Izumi even gave up time from his part-time job to help her, and for the entire week before finals, he stays right beside her as she studies. They grind through it day after day until the library is about to close, and the moment takes an uncomfortable turn. In the memory, Amane learns she passed every subject, and the shock of being saved crashes over her at once. Crying in relief, Amane thanks Izumi again and again, but he calmly reminds her that her own hard work is what truly got her through. Looking down at the test papers, Amane quietly asks why he went that far for her. Izumi answers by confirming that modeling truly matters to Amane. He says it would be ridiculous to let studying stop someone who is fighting that seriously for what she wants. Amane is left speechless by how unexpectedly cool that sounds. And then Izumi instantly ruins the moment by proudly asking how his line landed. Even while seeing how shallow and ridiculous he can act, Amane admits that by then she already knew he was more than that. Back in the present, Nanao points out that when it comes to Izumi, Amane's feelings are already impossible to hide. Nanao presses again and demands to know if she is really willing to leave things between herself and Izumi like this. Flustered and cornered, Amane grabs Nanao and blurts out that of course she is not okay with things staying this way. Nanao right away catches Amane's hands and thanks her for finally saying what she truly feels. Then, with sudden intensity, Nanao says they have both fallen for Izumi and urges Amane to work together with her. Amane freezes in pure confusion, completely blindsided by that proposal. As Amane asks whether helping each other would not just make Nanao her romantic rival, Nanao smugly says there is a reason for that. Nanao explains that no matter how much she pushes, Izumi never gives her a clear opening, and she blames his strangely passive attitude toward romance. She admits she started thinking that if both of them keep pushing Izumi, his feelings might finally start to move. Nanao proudly presents the whole thing like her own brilliant strategy. Amane stares at her in open disbelief, struggling to process how absurd it sounds even as she hesitates. Then Amane steels herself and declares that she still has no intention of giving up on Izumi. Delighted by that answer, Nanao lights up and seals their bizarre alliance with an eager handshake. Still holding Amane's hand, Nanao cheerfully declares that in the end, she intends to be the one who wins Izumi. Amane fires back that Nanao has some nerve if she can openly admit Amane is just a stepping stone, and Nanao calmly says that depends on how she sees it. Before their rivalry can flare any further, Izumi all of a sudden appears and anxiously calls out to Amane, asking if she is okay. Amane stiffens in shock, but Nanao instantly slips in beside her with a smile that only makes Amane panic harder. As Izumi approaches in concern, Nanao leans close to Amane and pointedly tells her to do her best, turning the whole moment into pressure. Flustered by his sudden arrival, Amane asks Izumi why he is here when he was supposed to be working. Izumi explains that someone covered his shift, then admits he got worried because Amane had been acting strained on Monday and stayed so busy with work that he could not see her after that. He adds that he remembered she had invited him to watch the shoot, and in the end, that worry brought him here. Overwhelmed with guilt, Amane right away bows and blurts out a desperate apology to Izumi. Izumi quickly tells her she has nothing to apologize for, reminding her that she invited him and he was the one who turned her down. But Amane blames herself anyway and says she even threw him off during the shoot. Amane insists that was not all, then guiltily admits she still wanted Izumi to support her, and realized she had been taking his feelings too lightly. Izumi answers at once and says that connects to something that happened to him back in middle school. He explains that his parents made him launch a project as a test to see whether he was fit to inherit the company, and says the memory still stands out sharply even now. Amane realizes he is talking about the Sumi group and is surprised, because he almost never speaks openly about his family background. The situation reaches a point neither of them expected. Izumi says he commissioned a designer he admired, and although he believed they had created something strong, the work was turned into a mascot character instead. He admits that when the product finally launched, it failed badly. He continues that while his own project fell apart, his younger sister proposed the same thing under the same conditions and succeeded, so she was chosen as the successor, even though he still believed someone more talented should inherit the company. Izumi says it felt like something he truly loved had been rejected. And after that, the atmosphere at home became unbearable for him. Seeing Amane's confusion, Izumi awkwardly apologizes and says he knows she is probably wondering why he all of a sudden started talking about himself, then admits this is what he wanted to tell her. Izumi tells Amane that even though she is still in high school, she is already a professional, and says having something only she can do is different from being able to do many things the way anyone else could. Flustered but sincere, Izumi says he respects people who work hard honestly, like Amane does. He urges Amane to keep doing her best, and for the moment, she quietly accepts his words. That sudden honesty embarrasses them both, and Izumi awkwardly apologizes for rambling before hurrying off, saying he should get back to the shoot. As Izumi rushes away, Nanao watches from a distance while Amane hesitates, then finally calls out to him. Gathering her courage, Amane shouts that even if something is not unique to her alone, doing it properly is still something admirable. She runs back to the set, apologizes for being late, and when someone asks if she is okay now, she says she thinks she can do it. With her resolve restored, Amane answers with a firm yes. In the present, Izumi notices Nanao react and asks if she just said something to Amane, but Nanao plays innocent. Then Nanao excitedly calls out for Amane, declaring that this is it because Amane's smile looks amazing now. As the staff notice how completely different, and better, Amane looks than before, the photographer brushes it off with a joke while the others wonder if something good happened to her. Even during the shoot, the photographer decides that this stronger expression is Amane-chan's real potential finally breaking through. Another observer admits that today's Amane-chan might be the best she has ever been. Later, people around school excitedly check the published blog and gush over Amane's photo, already saying they cannot wait for next month's issue. In the office, staff admire the lovely shot and note that Amasaki-san is working incredibly hard to balance both school and modeling. When a teacher is told to take a look too, the talk turns to how surprising this is coming from someone who once seemed against her modeling job. The blog itself praises Amane's smile as truly wonderful and highlights her as one of the biggest standouts from the shoot. After seeing that praise, Nanao hurries over to Izumi and apologizes for what happened the other day, admitting she acted like everything had been his fault. Bowing deeply, Nanao explains that Amane had been seriously down, so she rashly took Amane's side and blamed Izumi. Izumi is left completely caught off guard, while Nanao nervously realizes just how extreme she must have sounded once she hears it out loud. Nanao quickly says she understands now. This had been the real issue all along. She says she is just glad Amane cheered up, then reminds Izumi that in the end, he was still the one who reached her. Izumi admits he is not even sure about that, then wonders why every problem involving Amane somehow keeps landing on him. Nanao bluntly tells him the reason should be obvious. Painfully obvious. Flushing with embarrassment, Nanao says one look at Amane makes the answer clear, whether Izumi admits it or not. After dropping that bombshell, Nanao cheerfully thanks him and runs off, leaving Izumi staring after her completely thrown. Thinking the misunderstanding had finally been cleared up, Izumi heads off believing he might actually get to eat lunch in peace. As he reaches the doorway, he really thinks the trouble is finally over. But in the very next moment, a girl all of a sudden appears, awkwardly offering food toward Izumi with her chopsticks. Before he can even react, another girl rushes in calling for Izumi, only to freeze at the sight as the tension surges right back. The lunchroom erupts again as two girls push food toward Izumi at once, leaving him trapped in place while another student panics at what she is seeing. Izumi urgently tells them to stop for a second, throwing up his hands as he tries to crush the misunderstanding before it gets even worse. Staring at the lunch in front of him, Izumi forces himself to focus and points out that this bento looks nothing like the plain meal Amane usually brings. It is overloaded and far too dark to pass for Amane's usual style, and the difference is impossible to miss. As he reacts in shock, the blonde girl casually explains that Amane is not eating it anyway and says she can just get by with bread later. Then, more shyly, she admits she worked hard to make this bento for Izumi as thanks for helping during the photo shoot the other day. Flustered by her sincerity, Izumi says he understands and appreciates it, but still cannot find the right response while another girl watches from behind him. His situation only gets worse when he realizes Hakua's bento is already gone, and now two more lunches have all of a sudden entered the battle. Normally, this would be the moment for a gentle refusal, but guilt over brushing off Amane's invitation and hurting her stops him cold. Dragged down by that guilt, Izumi finally accepts and vows to finish everything she made without leaving a single bite, while the others stare at his reckless resolve. After making that promise, Izumi forces his way through the bento while the blonde girl beams beside him, and Amane watches his strained reaction in uneasy silence. Battling through the taste, Izumi awkwardly tells Amane the effort was good, then gently hints that she should probably test her cooking first next time. The blonde girl bluntly points out that fried chicken and chocolate should never be mixed, though she still praises Amane's determination as seriously impressive. That comment makes the truth about Amane hit all at once, and just then, the blonde girl remembers a meeting and rushes off, leaving Izumi quietly wondering what kind of determination had driven her. Once the girl is gone, only Izumi and Amane remain, trapped in an awkward silence after the chaos of lunch. The situation shifts into territory no one prepared for. Then, Amane shifts the mood and reminds Izumi that no matter what she said before, he was the one who truly encouraged her after Saturday's shoot. That makes Izumi pause, and he quietly remembers that Nanao also said his feelings were obvious. Yet even now, he still does not know what Amane truly thinks of him. Thinking back on his own words, Izumi remembers telling Amane that doing something well still matters even if others could do it too, and he modestly insists he is not especially remarkable. Amane steps closer and firmly throws that advice back at him, making it clear that doing something properly is admirable even if it is not unique. At that instant, Nanao's earlier words flash through Izumi's mind, and he freezes as Amane's meaning starts to sink in. He reflects that he had never seriously imagined liking someone or dating anyone, yet the tight weight in his chest starts to ease. And then Izumi realizes something that shakes him. He may have wanted to become someone worthy of making Amane feel that way. What pushes him even closer to the truth is realizing that Amane's words sounded almost exactly like Nanao's praise. Amane nervously asks whether hearing that from her could really make him happy, and Izumi cannot answer. She quickly tries to laugh it off as a coincidence and jokes that she said it before Nanao did, declaring herself the winner just to hide her embarrassment. Izumi awkwardly concludes that Amane really is back to normal and admits that somehow he feels closer to her now. And that matters. Then he gets up to leave for committee work, but the moment he mentions Nanao, Amane's expression tightens at once. Before going, Izumi leans in and quietly thanks her again, leaving Amane stunned by the sudden closeness. Amane abruptly tells him to forget everything she just said and blurts out that, since he is always the one doing things for her, this was only her way of paying him back. As Amane reels from Izumi's quiet thanks, she hears nearby girls teasing that his whispered remark was unfairly unsettling, while another hurriedly tells them to stop. Left alone on the rooftop, Amane stays frozen against the wall as the embarrassment keeps building instead of fading. The rooftop turns quiet around her, with only the bench, her things, and the open sky making it painfully clear how badly Izumi's words shook her. Amane grabs at her burning face and panics, unable to process what had just happened. She flails in private frustration and mentally complains that Izumi's unexpected reactions keep catching her off guard. Still overwhelmed, Amane admits to herself that she is struggling desperately just to keep her composure. At last, the tension eases, and the misunderstanding that had strained everyone comes to a safe end as the story begins turning toward something new. Far from school, a new figure appears at an airplane stairway, signaling the arrival of someone important. The returning young woman remarks that it has been a while since she was in Japan, then calmly announces her return as someone respectfully calls her Ojo-sama.